Well, that was one of the incident that happened some time ago, and we had to play that back to let you know how things are. But away from that, certainly we'll keep you updated with the accident that took place or that happened just about several hours ago. A luxury bus coming from the east into Lagos. It is confirmed that about 3 persons have died from the accident. The accident lost control and they've slide into a canal in Lagos around Owode area in Lagos. That's around on the way to Ikorodu. And we'll keep you updated with the developments there. Now let's get into our topic right now. Joining us on the breakfast show is Director of Project Alert on Violence Against Women in Nigeria, Josephine Efa Chukuma. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Now we have had this issues of child defilement, abuse, sexual abuse of all kinds, including minors, including adults, and all of that. Now we have the cases now we hear them more now. Is it that the cases are rising, or the difference is that there's more searchlight on them? Now what's the difference?
I think it's more of there's more searchlight on it.
Okay.
The silence has been broken.
Okay.
People are talking about it. The awareness is there. So that's what, I mean, it's always, for me, when we're talking about statistics, one needs to be cautious, because if there was no baseline survey, I mean, you said something earlier on about statistical data in Nigeria. That's always a problem. Yeah. Because as we're speaking, we don't really have an updated national crime survey that captures different forms of crimes, including sexual abuse, domestic abuse, and all that. But what we can say authoritatively is that the searchlight is on it. People are talking about it. More reportage. You know, the shame, a lot of the shame that used to be associated with it, it's been taken away. It's not over yet, but people are now speaking out. So we are getting to hear a lot of cases.
Maybe we should really begin by defining exactly what we mean by defilement. Because when you talk about child rape or defilement, many people seem to be fixated with that physical contact. But I do gather, I understand that it's actually more than that physical contact.
Well, you know, people, when you talk of sexual abuse, oftentimes people's minds go to just rape, which is the extreme, or defilement, where penetration would have occurred. But sexual abuse is very wide. Indecent exposure to a child, making a child touch your genitalia, you know, oral sex with a child, fondling with a child's genitalia. I mean, these are all child abuse. But when it goes the full hog, where penetration takes place, then you talk of rape, you talk of defilement, you know, that's it. But it's more, like you rightly said, it's much more than that.
See, there seems to be a loss of innocence. Let me just quickly try to clarify what I mean. Both on the part of society and the part of the child who is at the receiving end. I mean, those days, I mean, some parents will even tell you, what's wrong with me being totally, you know, unclad in front of my kid, whether they're a boy or a girl. Does that constitute sexual abuse too?
You see, it's we were discussing it before we came on air. You know, growing up in the 70s in Lagos, you know, a lot of us were in our 50s now. Sex was imaginative to us. We don't say it. You could read a novel and just, you know, read some things and just be chuckling to yourself and all that. But now sex is just a click away from our children. The internet worsens it. There are a lot of sick adult people, pedophiles. There are rape sites on the internet. A lot of people are having ideas. Adults are having a lot of sick, wacko ideas, fantasizing about having it out with kids and all sorts of things. So when we were growing up, you could 3, 4 children, cousins, could all sleep on the bed, play around. You don't know, you're not conscious of if one is a boy or a girl. But today, you need to be conscious. You need to be sensitive to the fact, because a lot of abuse is going on. And for child sexual abuse, it is often people they know, people they love, and people they trust. in 95% of child sexual abuse cases, the perpetrator is very well known to the victim.
And that is what is even more worrisome. Yeah. But I'll come back to ask questions from that side. Let's go on a break. Stay with us on TVC Breakfast. Let's go on a break and we come back. But don't forget that this time we're going out on TVC Entertainment. Viewers there can continue with TVC Breakfast on TVC Nigeria, Concert Channel 190 and DSTV Channel 418.
Also, Go TV 45 and ACTV 510. Stay with us.
Child defilement we've been following, and we have the director Project Alert on violence against women in Nigeria, Josephine Efachukuma, with us in the studio. Yeah. Now we established earlier on before we went on break, and I'll say it is more worrisome that those who are even involved are people the children trust, have love and know as they, but why is it like that? What's really giving rise to that? Because we know that growing up, having any thoughts of sexual anything with any relative of yours is, in fact, is a taboo in the first place.
No.
It's a no. Well, it's all part of say globalization, say development, and all sorts of things going. A lot of things have gone wrong over the years, and sometimes I ask myself, how did we get to this point? How did we get to this point where even when the right thing stares us in the face, we can't identify it? We're so used to doing wrong that if one person is attempting to do good, you actually look odd.
It becomes the wrong one.
You look odd, you know, and all that. You know, for sexual abuse of a child to take place, there needs to be access and opportunity. Access and opportunity. And that's where the issue of someone you know, love and trust comes in. Because someone you don't know will not have access to you.
Yeah.
Someone you don't trust will not have access to you. You know, so it's the father figures, the drivers, the pastors, the imams, in schools. In schools it's even worse. It's worse because by nature of the job of teaching, the teachers and the school authorities already have access to the children.
And close proximity.
Unhindered access. So what schools need to do is block opportunities. Block opportunities by putting in place policies, structures, you know, that would serve as check and balances. E.g. CCTV all around. E.g. what policies do you have in terms of teachers relating with students, depending on the ages of the kids. Should a male teacher be left alone with those children? Depending on the ages of the kids, when little children are learning their personal hygiene, going to the toilet, who goes with them to clean them up? After school, who are the teachers who sit around watching the kids? You know, all those things, they look small. But these are things the school should think about. Also, more importantly, who are the teachers you recruit? In a country like ours, where we don't have a register of offenders. Lagos State tried. Fashola, before he left in 2012, actually in December 2012, if I'm right, actually did open a sexual offenders register, attempting to document, you know, because we know in the UK, in developed countries, anyone whose job brings him or her in close proximity of children must go through a thorough check.
Yeah.
So if you're a pedophile, if you've done something in Okokomaiko, you could actually run to
Ikorodu, for example.
Exactly.
Or go to Aja or Sulere, you know. And a lot of employers don't carry out due diligence. The person will list 3 referees, put his pastor, put his brother, should those ones be your last place of work should be one of your referees. And then your new employers should painstakingly try to find out, why did you live there? What happened and all that? Do we do all that? So these are some of the checks and balances. So the issue of access and opportunity. In homes, the same thing. You know, if there is access and there's no opportunity, it can't happen. For example, if my driver is there Yeah, he has access, but there are so many people in the house. Of course, he hasn't got the opportunity. Opportunity comes when he has access to my children and he has the opportunity to strike.
But there's a sad situation where parents are involved in this.
Oh yes, fathers.
This, really.
Oh yes, a lot of fathers, not stepfathers, not adopted, I mean biological fathers. Yes.
Now those have access and they have opportunity.
That is why.
And they have authority sometimes too.
And they have authority.
In fact, they have everything.
Yeah. But that's where the state comes in also. We have a social welfare ministry. We have a child protection unit. Every child has a right to be protected. That you are a father or a mother does not give you that right to abuse that child. You know, so in such cases, like for us at Project Alert, if we get to know, and the state government, I'm very happy with what Lagos state government especially, with the setup of the domestic and sexual violence response team, the DSVRT.
Yes.
You know, once a case of an abuse is coming from the home, with a father figure, guardian or whatever, being this alleged perpetrator, that child first has to be taken away from that home. That child has to be taken out, extracted from that home first. That child can't still be there and you say you are investigating. I mean, like what we just watched now. That guy shouldn't be talking to the journalist.
But
he should be talking to the
so
police.
Much confidence and actually putting the blame on the little girl.
He should be talking to the police, not to and the journalist in speaking to him should be speaking with him in detention. Or when the police have arraigned him, you know, he shouldn't be standing there and then standing there putting the blame on the child. And that is what is much so saddening. You know, responsibility is taken from adults and put at the feet
of
a kid. Questions like, what were you doing there? Why didn't you shout? For crying out loud.
What goes on in the mind of a perpetrator, whether it's especially a father, who looks at a 10-month-old baby, a 3-year-old child, or even, you know, a stranger, a total stranger that looks at a child and is sexually aroused? Is that person themselves, is there something wrong? Are they themselves, should they even be seen as victims too?
Honestly, it beats my mind what an adult would see in a small child who is not fully developed. I really don't. I mean, people want to say the person is psychologically unstable and needs to be checked out, fine. But there's so many reasons. Some people do it for ritual purpose. Look at what the young girl said. And that's not the first time I've heard that. Whereby an adult offender has defiled the little child and uses a white handkerchief to clean the child off and then puts the handkerchief in his pocket. What does that mean? What's the purpose? You know, so there are a lot of things that comes to, but for me also the key thing while we are having a seeming increase is the inability of our law enforcement agencies to bring perpetrators to book. Families are not helping matters.
You took it right out of my mouth because I was going to ask, I mean, the societal and legal incentives for perpetrators, are the laws even stringent enough? You have this disparity between child defilement, which is 7 years or so, and rape, which is, well, for life in some cases, and of course so many states have not domesticated the Child Rights Act.
There are several laws. There are federal laws, there are state laws. The criminal code, it's quite clear on defilement, on rape, indecent assault and all that. At the federal level, we have the Violence Against Persons bill law that was signed into law by President Jonathan just before he left. We have the Child Rights Law. Yes, Child Rights Act. About 12, 13 states have done that. So even if a state has not domesticated or translated it, brought it to its state, the criminal code is there. In southern Nigeria. The penal code is there in northern Nigeria. So we have them. It's the enforcement.
Let's go on a break and then we come back proper on this. Stay with us on TVC Breakfast. We're discussing the rate or spate of child defilement in our society right now. And we've also been following the accident on Ikorodu Road earlier this morning. And we'll go on a break. And when we come back, we'll bring Foladele in to give us a perspective on these two. Stay with us.
what are the people saying on social media? Morning,
Good morning, Rosie. Good morning, Mike.
Fola.
Good morning, Josephine. Well, maybe not such a good morning for those involved in the accident, and of course, children who have had to go through cases of defilement. But let's see what some people are saying about this online. Tolu Lokbe AB says, this is happening over and over and over again in communities across Nigeria. When will we declare national emergency on child abuse, on child sexual abuse? Hassan says, mental illness, sex abuse, child sex abuse, things happening to people we know, but we'll never know because Nigeria doesn't talk. Chris says, pedophilia and child sex abuse is gradually on the rise in Nigeria. We keep getting news of such occurrences on a daily basis. Ekenedi Lichukuo says, child molestation is very rampant in Nigeria. Boys and girls, many times aunties or uncles or family friends. The sad thing is parents, and she continues, usually don't know how to talk about it. It becomes a matter of deliverance or flogging, and this just makes the child feel even more guilty. Eze says, loss of family values is another factor that gave rise to child sexual molestation in Nigeria. Parents rarely have time for their kids. And the last one here from Becky, who says, recently I've read a lot on child molestation in Nigeria. Do we really have social services, Nigeria? And what are they doing about this? Do you want to answer that, Josephine?
The social services are trying. I mean, Lagos especially, I must say, a lot of the states outside, I don't know what's happening, including my state, Cross River State. But in Lagos State, I can tell you that the government is alive and responsible. The social services are trying their best. A lot more could be done, I must tell you. A lot more could be done. But they're actually trying their best in terms of, I mean, if you go to the social welfare department, I mean, we have family case workers and different. So they are trying their best. But the enormity of the problem, honestly, like one of the people who sent a message that shouldn't we declare a national emergency on child sexual abuse? I have been screaming it. My organization, Project Alert, has been screaming it since 2012, as a matter of fact. We actually even have a publication where we title A Silent Epidemic, Child Sexual Abuse in Nigeria. It's an epidemic, it's going on. It's going on even as we are talking. Nowhere, the home, unfortunately, increasingly, has become the least safe place. Schools are also becoming very unsafe. So where do we keep our children?
That's the big one.
What do we do?
No safe place for the Nigerian child.
I have more questions, but I know I have
I have to let you go now.
You can imagine how many questions we have.
We have, exactly.
Thank you so much.
Now, let's talk about when cases are reported like this, what are the challenges with prosecution, really? We don't often hear prosecution of anybody who is involved, even when the child's, like the report we played earlier on, the child was saying, don't tell lies, you raped me. So if a little child...
Why should a child be made to say that?
So what's really the challenge with prosecution of people like that?
There are several challenges, honestly. Number one, and the biggest one, is the cost of justice. Honestly, if we must be very honest, getting justice in Nigeria is expensive. Why is it expensive? Because the institutions, e.g. the police, e.g. the hospitals, that should be properly funded to respond to these cases without putting additional stress on the perpetrator and the family, are not doing so. So when a child is abused, the very first challenge or hurdle, which if a family is able to overcome that, is actually even getting to report. Because like we said offline,
a lot of stigmatization and all that.
The family, keep it in the family. We cannot wash our dirty linens. The pastors, no. You're a member of this church. You cannot be, seen to be doing this or and doing all that. So when if you're able to break all these obstacles and report, the next stage is the police. In the sense that our law enforcement, I say it anytime I have an opportunity, honestly, the government at the federal level need to step up funding for the police on that. Because if not, victims of crime, when they go there, the police will now ask them, I need money for a call, madam, do you have a vehicle? I need to recharge my phone, because he's using his personal phone, which he should not be using. You don't expect him to use his personal car. So more responsibility. This is a victim. Imagine a poor, forget you and I, maybe we have some little money to spend. A woman in the market, whose daughter has been defiled, and she runs to the police for help. And then as she's talking, okay, madam, we need to call. You come with motor, we don't get motor. Okay, you go pay our transport. Possibly she used her last 50 naira to bring that child to that police station. She goes to the hospital also to get a medical report. She needs to pay for that. But one thing that has helped in the last 3 years, I must quickly highlight this, is the existence of the Mirabel Center at LASO, Lagos State University Teaching Hospital. The Mirabel Center, it's the first sexual assault referral center. You know, set up by an NGO in partnership with Justice for All project, a DFID UK government project, in partnership with the Lagos State government. There, it was set up in 2013, around July. You know, there, if a sexual assault victim, be it a child or an adult, goes there, at least you are guaranteed prompt service, counseling. You see a doctor. You don't really need to path with any. So that gives you some
help, succor.
Some succor.
All right.
So, but
I wish we could go on. There's so many issues that one would have loved to raise with you. How this affects women or even boys in their older age,
sodomy,
and all of that. But we'll have to, you know, end it there. Director of Project Alert on Violence Against Women in Nigeria, Josephine Efa Chukuma. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for coming.